Hey guys, what's going on? I'm on the road here, traveling with my daughter for volleyball. So if you're brand new to the channel, please forgive the format. Usually I'm in the studio, it's a little better than this, but I think it's so important to bring an update because of the potential for what could be the coldest winter air that we've seen so far this year, and maybe, just maybe, some of the heaviest snow for some of you that we've seen so far this year. We're tracking a storm system today that's going to bring a tremendous amount of severe weather across the south, also some really heavy rain. I'm currently in Tennessee right now. It is absolutely pouring here. We've got flooding rain on the way, not just for Tennessee, but Kentucky and areas further to the south. Eventually, cold air works into the rest of the east and we turn cold. Things get really interesting, though, as we head into next week as low pressure starts to kick out into the plain states. Now, the most recent models have been very consistent in bringing snow here into Kansas, maybe even as far south as Oklahoma, with some ice on the southern side of this. I think there's still some time to go, but the potential for that heavy snow is there, and it's really strong, I think, just because it's been showing up over and over and over on the model runs. This is forecast to move off to the east. With this type of setup, you would get some snow into Tennessee and Kentucky. This looks a little stronger than last night's run. This would be the early morning hour run. You could argue that this is a little bit further to the west with the overnight run. That puts a little more rain and a little bit more warm air across parts of North Carolina, giving you more of a mix. But heavy snow into Kentucky, West Virginia, Virginia with this type of track, and it also deepens low pressure right off of the North Carolina coast. Type of setup also puts heavy snow into New Jersey, DC, Philadelphia. This is a winner for you. I mean, if you're looking for snow, I don't know that it gets much better with this type of setup. This would be the now looking at the early morning run. It doesn't use as much data. Last night's run might have been a little bit closer to the coast, but we've still got a storm. A long way to go before we really iron these details out, so I hope you'll stay tuned. Now, as far as snow totals go, it's still way too early to get into any of these details, but this is an incredible looking map. We're going to get some snow right now on the front end of this, but look, more snow on the way. At least it's showing up in the model data. And behind this, a tremendous amount of cold air. This could be some of the coldest air we've seen so far this winter season. It modifies pretty quickly as we head into next week as our stronger, I guess, February sun starts to be felt. All right, a little bit further to the east, temperatures here certainly on the way down, heading into Monday and Tuesday. And will get really cold, especially across parts of Illinois, Iowa, Missouri. And as that cold air sinks into the south, temperatures will be below freezing in many areas. And look at this cold pushing into the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley. Again, it does modify as it moves east, as we're now in February, late February almost. This is the ensemble guidance. This gives us an idea of where we're seeing the averages between the 51 different members. It's starting to point to a heavier snow here across eastern Virginia, parts of Maryland, also the Northeast. This up into this region is falling right now, so kind of take that off. But the idea that some heavier snow also showing up a little bit further to the west across Missouri, Kansas, and even parts of Oklahoma, and this is the chance of seeing more than 6 inches of snow. Another thing on this Saturday that I think is important is this strong jet streak that's swinging through the south. That's going to bring some heavy rain, strong damaging winds with thunderstorms, and some flooding. I told you I'm in Tennessee right now. It's pouring here, and there's more rain on the way, especially across West Tennessee and West Kentucky, and severe weather, not just for Tennessee, but look to the south, especially toward Memphis. Once you get into Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, even Alabama, the potential for some strong damaging winds and tornadoes. The Storm Prediction Center now has a larger area that's got the hashed out area. You can see these hashes that are going here on this chart. That gives you an idea that there's a significant chance of tornadoes, and that threat extends pretty far north too, up into Kentucky and as far east as Georgia and as far west as Texas. Weather aware, that's the thing you need to be today. Make sure you have a way to get warnings if and when they come out. Tomorrow the storm threat shifts to the east. A tornado threat still for parts of the southeast Virginia, maybe even as far north as southern parts of Maryland, and maybe even Delaware, and then down into the south along Georgia, Florida, as our front moves to the east. I showed you the European. I want to give you the GFS and give you the down low on it because it does look significantly different. Pretty close with our snow today. Heavy snow into southern Canada, also into the northeast. A lot of wind with that low too, and more snow and rain across the Pacific Northwest as our next storm system takes shape. Now, the GFS is very similar looking through Tuesday. we're just a few days out now. So we're starting to see better alignment for what's going to be happening during this time period. But this is where the GFS starts to look a little bit different once you head toward Wednesday and Thursday, right? So it's not nearly as strong with the snow back here, maybe into West Virginia, up into Kentucky and Ohio, but it still has snow for Kentucky, Indiana, southern Indiana that is, and then into Maryland. Southeast Virginia, a little bit warmer on this run, and it doesn't want to bring the snow as far north. So that doesn't give us a roaring nor'easter that's close to the coast. The GFS definitely a little bit further away. You can see how the difference between a few hundred miles will make as we fine-tune a forecast. But nonetheless, still really interesting to see at least some close agreement that we're going to see a storm, first of all. Second, that it could be a little closer to the coast. And this is the Canadian. So while we're looking at all the global models, this is an interesting look here too. It has your winter storm. It's a little bit colder further south. It puts snow into Tennessee. All right, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of the Canadian, but I think it's worth looking at. But it also brings our low up the coast, right along the coast too, with a strong developing winter storm. This is a quick look at the European. If we want to zoom in just a little bit closer, there's that rain, that real heavy rain that we're seeing through Sunday. It's going to continue to be wet from Ohio all the way down into the southern states, with severe weather pushing off to the east. There's the ice that we're expecting too. This is, I don't want to undersell the fact that there's going to be some real problems into parts of the Northeast, into Pennsylvania and New York, with freezing rain, sleet, and snow all the way into southern New England. And then on the backside of this, as cold air wraps in, look at the snow breaking out across Indiana, northwest Ohio, into eastern Michigan. So places like Detroit, southern Ontario, big snows going here. Temperatures plummet behind this system, and we see snow showers lingering around the Great Lakes and in the upslope areas of the mountains. Some settling down as we head toward Tuesday, and now we're looking west for our next storm that's going to bring our snow. It looks a little lighter. Again, I think it kind of jumps with the heavy snow across parts of Missouri, eastern Missouri, southern parts of Iowa, or I should say Illinois, Indiana, into Ohio. But if our coastal low can pick up, which the European from last night tried to show that happening off of the North Carolina coast, now you've got a coastal storm that's moving up, and it is bombing out fast, deepening low pressure. So a long way to go before we get there. This is the newest run of the European that came out early this morning. It doesn't use as much data, so I'm not a huge fan of it, but it still has the idea of a pretty decent coastal low moving up the East Coast and across the central U.S. too. Quite a bit of agreement for Tuesday into Wednesday with the snow moving east. And hey, you might get some snow as far south as Tennessee and Kentucky out of this. And how much snow are we talking? I mean, look at this. Some of this snow falling right now, right? So don't dig into it too much, especially across the Northeast. But as we move ahead in time, look at that snow building. This is the Kuchera version of the European. It takes into account maybe the cold air that's in place, the fluffiness of the snow. So these totals may be a little high, but I'm telling you what, I'm going to pay attention when I see numbers that are pushing a foot, and you see a solid stripe of it from east to west and pretty far to the south too. If you go to a 10-to-1 ratio, which again, you may see that closer to the coast, there's still some time to iron that out, but still, some of these areas on the latest European, this would be the early morning run, the 6Z run, so more than a foot. If you go back to last night's run, the early morning run actually has a little more snow back here in the Ohio Valley. So let's see how all that shakes out. There will be a little bit of ice too through the day today into the Northeast, and also back here across these states from Ohio west all the way to Iowa and Missouri and across the Central Plains. I've timed some of that snow out, but look at the totals. This would be from last night's run, trying to put close to a foot of snow into southeast Kansas, into northern Oklahoma, over into Missouri, with even an inch or two as far south as maybe Little Rock. Do we get the snow into Memphis? It's so close here. You'll definitely want to pay attention over the next couple of days. And then across the west, things do get a little bit quieter. Heavy rain, heavy snow across the Pacific Northwest. And then this pushes east. And then we see more active weather across the Pacific Northwest. Of note, before we go today, a lot of hazards showing up on the 3 to 7 day hazard outlook from the National Weather Service. But interestingly enough, take a look at here into the Northeast. You're starting to see this area get circled here for the idea of that there could be some heavy snow showing up. And it goes all the way up really into southern New England. So right here from Nantucket, Boston, all the way down into West Virginia and Virginia, they're highlighting it. And back in here, this is another issue too. That's all the flooding hazards and some freezing rain hazard across North Carolina. And if you zoom it out, I mean, the entire country under some kind of hazard, especially across the central U.S. The idea that we could be dealing with some really cold air here all the way down into Texas. So really active this week. If you're brand new to the channel, thanks for watching. I'm Travis. I hope you'll subscribe and come back. If you're new, I used to be a chief meteorologist on television. My background, I love forecasting. I love following this stuff. So if you're a weather geek like me, I hope you'll come back and you'll subscribe. All right. Have a great day wherever you are. See you next time.